Hello, and I'm really glad you're here with us.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just take a gentle moment, maybe slow down together.
Yeah.
Today, we want to reflect on this really deep connection between your inner world and the world all around you.
And how healing can be both a personal thing and, well, a collective one.
Absolutely. And, we want to just acknowledge something right up front.
Please.
When the environment around us feels unstable, or when the systems we rely on, for protection, when they fall short, it's so profoundly natural to feel things like anger.
Or grief, or even just this deep helplessness.
Yes.
And we really invite you to hold compassion for those feelings. They are not a weakness.
Not at all.
They're vital signals. They're asking for care, for attention, and for change.
Exactly. So today, let's gently unpack the root imbalance that causes so much of this stress, both within our lives and, globally.
It seems like for a very long time, the main belief system that has driven civilization and its whole idea of progress has been rooted in one powerful concept: control. That control model is everywhere because it's so powerful. It seeks dominance.
Dominance over what, specifically?
Well, control over nature, for one. Control over resources, which are finite. And often control over one another within society itself.
And you can see how it fueled things like the Industrial Revolution, these massive power structures. It gives this impression of unlimited growth, of mastery.
But what we're seeing now, and I think this is undeniable, is that this control model has fundamentally reached its limit. The evidence isn't hidden.
No, it's everywhere.
That's absolutely right. You see it manifesting in multiple crises at the same time. Climate disruption, environmental degradation.
Massive wealth inequality, social unrest.
Right. And what's so crucial to understand here is that these aren't separate, disconnected problems you need to track one by one.
No.
They're all interconnected symptoms. They stem from one deeper imbalance in how we see the world.
And when you look at the raw data, it really does paint a stark picture of this imbalance. I mean, research highlights that a staggering amount of global resource consumption, we're talking over 80%, is driven by a tiny fraction of the world's wealthiest people.
That just perfectly captures it. That's the extraction and control model in one statistic. A small group with disproportionate control over what the many need to survive.
And if we trace that back, what's the root of it all? The root of the stress, the crisis?
It's what you could call the illusion of separation.
The illusion of separation, okay.
It's this core underlying idea that we as humans are somehow separate from the natural systems that support us.
Or even worse, that the economy, which is really just a human management system, can operate totally divorced from the ecology it depends on.
Yes. And when that illusion is guiding your policy, it's so easy to justify exploitation.
Or control, or just neglect of the other, whether that's a forest or a community.
Or even a system within your own body. If it's separate from you, it's just a resource to be managed, not a partner to cooperate with. And that separation, it breeds so much anxiety.
How so?
Well, when you don't trust the system you're a part of, when you feel inherently separate from it, your default response is to try and control everything around you just to feel safe.
So if the problem is control, and the root is separation, then the path forward has to be defined by something fundamentally different.
Precisely. We need a fundamental paradigm shift. We have to move consciously, from control to cooperation.
And you're saying this isn't just a soft suggestion?
No, this is the path to achieving both structural clarity and profound resilience in our global systems, in our communities, and maybe most importantly, in our own personal internal lives.
I think when we talk about cooperation, a lot of people hear that and they immediately think of sacrifice, right? Of giving things up. So what does this massive shift actually look like in practice? Does it mean we all have to go back to some pre-industrial age?
Not at all. It requires reorientation, not sacrifice. And we can define this shift through three. Let's call them core reorientations in how we measure success.
Okay, let's unpack those.
The first shift is moving from the goal of extracting more, this endless pursuit of bigger numbers, to the principle of honoring enough.
That's maybe the most difficult mental shift for our kind of economies.
It is. It means recognizing the natural limits of a system. It means prioritizing sufficiency for everyone, rather than infinite accumulation for just a few.
That immediately challenges our entire economic compass. I mean, if success isn't measured by more, what measures it?
Well, we might shift our goals away from, say, relentless GDP growth, and instead focus on well-being indicators.
Like community health, access to education.
Clean air, local self-sufficiency. Honoring enough recognizes that true wealth isn't measured by the things we own, it's measured by the health of the systems that sustain us.
Okay, that's the first shift. What's the second one in this cooperative model?
The second is moving away from a focus on short-term financial gains and toward long-term regeneration.
Right. The control model always externalizes its costs, doesn't it? Dumping pollution, depleting resources, because it's only looking at the next 3 months.
For the next 5 years. Regeneration demands a 50-year or a 100-year perspective.
And this would fundamentally change how we build things. So instead of a product designed to be thrown away...
You're designing closed-loop systems.
Exactly. So it's the difference between linear systems, take, make, dispose, and circular ones.
Where waste becomes food for the next process. This requires cooperation not just between humans, but with nature's own cycles. We are rebuilding soil, restoring water tables, letting ecosystems do the heavy lifting.
And the third, reorientation.
It's a conscious shift away from deep consumerism and toward truly conscious living.
You know, consumerism often feels like it's trying to fill a void.
A void created by that illusion of separation. We try to buy connection or buy purpose. Conscious living redirects that same energy toward genuine connection.
To neighbors, to craft, to local knowledge.
To purpose-driven work, yes.
So I think many of our listeners might be nodding along with these ideas, but then they ask the really critical question.
Does it scale?
Does it scale? Exactly. If we move away from these huge, centralized, controlled systems, which right now provide our power grids, our food chains, how do we do that without massive disruption? Does cooperation really work on a global stage?
That's such an essential question. And this is where the evidence shows us it's not only possible, it's necessary. The cooperative model demands a redirection of our energy.
Less exploitation, more restoration.
Less centralization, more community, less consumption.
And more connection.
It is a truly pragmatic approach.
And here's where it gets really, really interesting for me. The case is being made that this cooperative, eco-friendly way of living isn't some utopian fantasy. It's a realistic, humane, and proven path forward. And it offers deep social benefits right now.
Yes, because we so often hear the critique that eco-conscious living is impractical or maybe it's elitist.
Right, that it's just for people with extra time or money to focus on organic or local practices.
But the sources show the opposite is true. When this shift is rooted in local knowledge, in circular resource management,
it becomes a powerful engine.
An engine for livelihood, for dignity, and for economic resilience within communities. It actually fosters local jobs and equity.
And the beautiful part is, we don't have to invent this from scratch.
Not at all. We have these incredible blueprints from history. We can look back at the deep ecological understanding in certain ancient cultures that practice cooperation for centuries.
And the sources specifically mention practices in places like Tamil Nadu in India.
Exactly. They developed these flourishing, highly resilient, decentralized water management systems. A key example is the Erie, or tank systems.
Along with the temple water bodies.
Right. And these weren't reservoirs managed by some distant central government. They were sophisticated, interlinked water harvesting structures.
Can you just explain briefly how a system like that fosters cooperation and resilience?
What's really important is the social contract around it. The Erie systems were basically man-made, community-maintained tanks. They were designed to capture monsoon water, providing irrigation and drinking water long after the rains passed.
And the resilience came from the fact that the management of it
was handled entirely by the local community. Through consensus, dredging the tank, repairing the walls, regulating who got water when, all of it.
So the cooperation wasn't just a nice feel-good idea, it was their operating system for survival.
It was the operating system. If the community didn't cooperate, the system failed, and everyone suffered.
It was a social and ecological contract.
Precisely. They cooperated with the water cycle, and they cooperated with each other to manage the resource equitably. And this local knowledge, this participation, it created stability and dignity. It directly addressed people's core needs.
That's just a powerful illustration of local wisdom creating real sustainability and clarity. It reframes the whole idea of who owns and controls essential resources.
And that wisdom is entirely scalable. I mean, modern innovations like urban rainwater harvesting, decentralized energy grids, the principles of the circular economy, they can and they must build on this legacy.
The core decision is the same.
It's always the same. Do we choose to cooperate with nature and each other, or do we attempt to dominate and control?
So let's pivot now. Let's connect this huge global shift back to the personal. When we design systems based on cooperation systems that honor enough and restore instead of extract, the social impact runs so deep. It creates environments that feel intrinsically safe.
And that connection to safety is the key bridge. When societies and ecosystems are structured for long-term health, for equity, the social benefits are remarkable. When people can live with dignity, when they have local food and water security, when they're connected to nature and to one another, we see a profound shift in the data.
A shift toward what?
Crime falls. Community mental health improves, meaning returns to everyday life. The anxiety of this relentless winner-take-all competition, it starts to be replaced by the stability of a shared purpose.
And a reciprocal responsibility.
Yes. The need for constant vigilance lessens because the environment, both physical and social, just becomes more trustworthy.
It brings us right back to that disconnection thesis, the root of so much modern unrest, the anger, the anxiety. It's not necessarily flaws in us as individuals.
No, it's profound disconnection from the earth, from secure resources, and from meaningful community bonds. An eco-socioeconomic shift based on cooperation has this unique power to heal the broken bonds in ecosystems and societies at the same time. It builds a foundation of collective resilience.
And this connects so profoundly back to the personal journey we started with, because the same patterns that cause so much damage to the earth,
Over control.
the compulsive need to extract more than you need, the neglect of long-term health.
They're the very same patterns that show up in our own minds, in our relationships, and ultimately in our nervous systems.
It's the impulse to constantly override natural cycles, whether it's the Earth's limits or your own body's need for rest. That is the signature of the control paradigm running internally.
Healing within truly supports healing without. When you start to address that constant need for over-control in your personal life, learning to rest, learning to trust, learning to honor your own sense of enough, you start to understand the damage that same impulse causes on a global scale.
And that shift requires profound personal growth. It takes courage to reimagine what success even looks like, not just for the world, but for you.
For you as an individual, reimagining your personal systems and priorities.
But what's so exciting is the realization that the world already has the tools for this.
We don't need to invent some new technology from scratch. We need to combine traditional ecological wisdom, like those Erie Kank systems, with modern science and design. The capacity for healing is already here.
And this powerful shift, it begins not just in governments or corporations. It begins in our everyday choices, how we consume, how we relate to people, how we care for our own immediate environment, our inner ecosystem.
Every act of cooperation, no matter how small a choice to share, to restore something, to conserve, is a profound step toward collective healing.
You know, if you find yourself reflecting on these ideas, maybe longing for a deeper connection, for balance, or for more clarity in your own life, it is so important to remember that the internal journey and the external one are mirror images. And sometimes beginning that process of understanding your inner ecosystem, addressing that impulse for over-control, cultivating inner safety, it starts best in a compassionate, guided setting.
It can.
So if you are seeking a gentle starting point for that kind of internal work, just know that therapy can be a meaningful place to begin. For example, at Heal with Amritha, healing is approached as a compassionate, collaborative journey.
It's a space that specifically honors your inner ecosystem while gently supporting your personal growth, building up your emotional resilience, and stabilizing your overall well-being.
The world is asking us to evolve beyond this illusion of separation.
This journey, from control to cooperation, it starts inside each of us, and its ambition is truly magnificent.
We're working toward designing a future not just where some can thrive, but where all life flourishes together. Just think about that for a moment. Yeah.
What decisions would you make today if your primary goal was to ensure the flourishing of all life? That's the provocative question this shift really raises.
Indeed. It changes the entire calculus of every single action.
As we come to a close, just take a quiet moment and notice how you feel. Healing begins with gentleness, with connection, one step at a time. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Keep moving gently forward. Your well-being deserves your care. Until next time, take good care of yourself.